Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Well, today we're going to be doing something along the lines of this card. It's a monochromatic look using pigment ink, but we're going to be using a background stamp as our whole image, and it's going to be this brown cardstock. It's kind of a craft cardstock, but it's almost chipboard. It's so thick. I don't even know where I got it. I just found it in my drawer and I thought, well, let's play with it. So what we're going to do is, the first thing you want to do is you're going to stamp your image, and you're going to stamp it with this Unicorn White Pigment Ink. I've already done that step because I wanted to make sure this was dry, and this pigment ink does take a while to dry. Do you like my blue hands? Pretty. Anyway, when you do the white, you want to line it up on this edge, and when I did it, I think I did it all the way to the bottom, so I do have some edge down here that doesn't have a stamped image, so I have to keep that in mind when I stamp the next time. I'm going to move it over a little bit, but I have to make sure that I line it up on the bottom edge so I have that same gap, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up my stamp with this Stampin' Up Baked Brown Sugar ink, and you want to make sure you stamp it really, really well, or ink it, sorry. Ink it, stamp it, both. You know, I like to make sure I really ink it up good. Got it. So, again, remember I have that little gap, so I want to make sure that I do the same thing with this one. I'm going to move it over a little bit, like that, and I've got my gap. I'm going to put a piece of scrap paper on it, and then you want to really make sure that you rub it to get your image to transfer really, really well. You're going for not a complete overlap, but a pretty close overlap to the image that you did before. So hopefully this time it looks right. That's my problem from before. Perfect. You see how the image is just a little bit offset. I love it. I could not be happier. Things are looking up. Okay, so let's let that dry for a second, because now that baked brown sugar is on top of that pigment ink, it's going to take a minute to dry. So I'm going to... Now, my idea about how I want to make this card is I think I'm going to cut it at an angle and put my sentiment at an angle in the cut. Might be scary, but we're going to do it anyway. We're living on the edge today. I'm going to cut off. Hope you can see this. Let me push it back a little bit more if I can. Okay. Of course, it is really thick cardstock, so it didn't want to cut really easily. Okay, our next job is to cut it, and I think I want my separation to be a little bit in the center of the card. No, not in the center, in the top third of the card. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut a little bit more off the bottom, and that'll make my card shorter, because what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have a gap in our card, so that when we do the sentiment, I'm going to do it about right there. I decided not to do an angle. I think it'll look better if it's just a straight cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our card base, and then, oh, sorry, I almost did that wrong. That would have been scary. What I want to do is I want to put the bottom right there, and then the top we'll put right there. So what we're going to have to do is have enough room for our sentiment in there. So our sentiment can't be that large, because we're going to have to make sure that it fits there. And I can always cut more off the bottom and the top, but my goal is that I try to hit the spot that I'm going to put here. And I'm going to get a pencil where I think this should be. Okay. And we'll get our MISTI, and we're going to have to put it in a little bit differently. We'll put it in this way. And our lines are right there. Our lines are right here. So we're going to want to make sure that our sentiment is in that space. And I got to make sure it's right side up once I do this. Looks right, but I got to make sure now that it's straight. The other problem I always have, especially with these red rubber stamps, when you use the MISTI, it's really hard to tell if they're straight or not in here. So I'm going to stamp it more than once because that's how I like to do my sentiments in the MISTI, is stamp them twice so that you end up with a really nice edge, or a really nice inked look. Hopefully I'm in the screen, because I hate it when that happens, when you can't see that. And this is why I like to stamp it twice. If you look at it right now, well, look at it right now and then keep that image in your head, because I want you to see what it looks like once I stamp it the second time. I think there's a big difference between one stamping and two stamping with this. See how much darker it is? And I was going to put embossing powder on it, but I don't think it needs it. I think it's going to look better with the card design without that. So I'm going to get the MISTI out of the way. And that stamp set is from Blockhead, and it's Feel Better is the name of it. I don't know. I got this. It's a very old stamp set, and I had it for a long time and don't really know much about where I got it. Or okay, here's the beauty of doing this. Because you are setting this up so that you're putting them in the way you know, like you're setting your images in here, you also are controlling how big your slot needs to be just by trimming it down a little bit. So I like having that freedom, because I often stamp things in the wrong place. So let's get my trim board out again, and I'm going to cut a little bit more off the bottom. That ought to be enough to make sure that we have good room on the top and on the bottom. So let's erase our little lines. And I got a little bit of ink on the edge there that I don't like. I put fun foam on the back, and I put tear tape on that so it's attached. And then we're going to stick it to the... This is actually the outside of the card. Right now you can't tell that because of the fact that I haven't folded it yet. There's that portion. Now, I can either lay this flat, or I can make it a little bit higher. I think I'm going to cut a little bit off the top of it. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off. Maybe a little more than I wanted, but that's how much we cut off. Okay. So we could put this on flat like that, or we can raise it up. I personally like it raised up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing with the fun foam. And I don't want you to have to sit and wait through that. I'll do it, and I'll be right back. So we're going to attach the top piece, and I'm going to have to move it down a little bit so I can see it better. That looks right. Okay. So now, here's the part that I should have done earlier, but why do it when I should have? I might as well do it now, right? I'm going to take, this is a matching baked brown sugar marker, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the little flowers, and I'm just going to make the little circles and the little flowers darker. I think this really adds to it. And it also makes it so that there are 3 colors in the mix, because there are going to be some of those light brown stripes, and then they're going to be the darker brown pieces, and then you're going to have the white. So I think I like the look of this, because I think it really, once you add the marker to it, I think it really makes a difference. I really like the difference it makes once you use the marker on it. See the difference between the top and the bottom? You see how much, I don't know, I just think it really adds a lot to it. Okay, that is that part. Now, let's get our white pencil and see if you like the difference with that as well. So there's the outside of our card. Let me get my stamp and I'll stamp the inside, but first I guess I'll do my washi tape. I can only find this washi tape, but I still think it will look nice even though it's not, it's not exactly the same, whoops, it's not exactly the same as the card, but I like the brown in it, and I think that it will look nice. Okay, and last but not least, we'll get our stamp. Okay, ready? I made this for you. There is our card and our envelope. Whoops, can't see the envelope. I hope you like this, and I hope you give it a try. It's a fun technique, and I think it really looks nice when you're done with it. And I like the blue as well. I have a purple one I need to still make. So I hope you give this technique a try, and give this a thumbs up and subscribe. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.